there are so many facts about minimum wage that bears repeating, but Barbara, I'm so glad you talked about the CBO study, because don't you often find a case that usually it's the people that don't rely on facts to support their ideological perspectives, suddenly they find one study among many that seems to support their perspective, and suddenly facts matter. So I'm glad that you brought it up, because most of the studies on raising minimum wage and the impact on the economy shows that we're not going to go to hell in a handbasket. Can I say that? Well, I just did. Okay. Well, thank you, sister. I'm glad to be here. I'm surrounded by the right people. Having said that, it is very true that most people who are minimum wage workers are women, as was my mother. When we first came here from Japan, she worked minimum wage. And many of these minimum wage workers, women, are also heads of households, as was my mother when she raised 3 children as a single parent. So I know from my own family's firsthand experience that the minimum wage is not enough to keep food on the table and pay rent. This is a fact. So we all know that the minimum wage has not kept up with inflation. If we look at the minimum wage in 1968, I use that date because it's easy to remember. In 1968, if we look at the minimum wage then, if that wage had kept up with inflation, that minimum wage today would be $10.68. 1968, $10.68. We've heard from women all across the country who are on minimum wage, and Hawaii's Catholic Charities, which is a wonderful organization that supports our community and our families, sent me a story about a young woman and her 10-year-old son who worked a minimum wage job, who could not pay for the basic necessities of life. She moved back with her parents, and with perseverance, number of years later, she finally has a job that pays her $10 an hour today. This is what we're talking about. People want to be able to support themselves and their families. They need a living wage. It is high time for us to raise the minimum wage. And I'm really glad that I'm joined by members of the faith community, because as the one and only first Buddhist ever to serve in the United States Senate, it is a privilege for me to be here with these wonderful representatives of the faith community. We are holding our hands together with people all across our country to fight against poverty, to raise the minimum wage. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here and to stand together with our hands joined, because what we know as women is that women are the ones who nourish families, who help create the space for children to grow up, and who make the difference for our future as a nation. I have to start by quoting Pope Francis, who has totally captured my heart, and luckily the heart of a lot of folks around the country, not necessarily Catholics, and where he says that a society that does not pay a just wage to people and that only looks to its balance books, that only seeks profits, is unjust. Unjust. Now, we come at this from faith. But I must say that our preamble to the Constitution is quite like the tenets, the basic tenets of our faith, where we say in our Constitution, we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, not giving a reasonable wage for full-time work, that's not just. That's not a better union. We, the people, are better than that. 2 weeks ago, I met Robin, who works full-time at a national clothing store. She was so excited because we were waiting to get in the White House for an event, and she got to be there. It was her first time. She lives over in Virginia. She'd only walked by the White House a couple of times. And she had gotten a new blue dress at her clothing store and only had to pay $20.43. She was so excited at the great deal she got that it looked really good on her. And then she said to me, "You know, I work full time. I make minimum wage, but you'd never know by looking at me that I live in a homeless shelter because I can't afford rent." it's not enough. And then we got talking about the struggle she has trying to make a go of it. And the fact is, it's hard for all minimum wage workers. It is impossible. And so some, not in Congress, would want you to think that the issue is we have to incentivize work. We have to help people want to work. The fact is, people want to work. People are working, and yet justice is not being done. Raising the minimum wage would allow Robin to realize her dream of just even having a room of her own that she could call her place. Now, in our nation, it also has been said that it's only about raising or increasing profits, and that we ought to have some miraculous idea that money will trickle down. Well, now the fact is, we've been raising profits for at least 10, 20 years where we do not see an increase in wages. The time is now to change the direction of our nation, to step closer to justice. This is not just about a society at war with itself among classes. This is about justice. Because if we get money in the hands of folks like Robin, it's going to build our economy. It's going to create more opportunity, and our people will be able to live in dignity. That's at the core of our faith. It's at the core of our Constitution. We're so grateful for the leadership here on the parts of our senators to make raising the minimum wage happen. It's the right thing for faith, for justice, and for our nation.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here with so many strong women. Thank you, Senator Boxer, Senator Hirono, for having me today and for recognizing International Women's Day with this call to raise minimum wage and to help people like me at the bottom of the ladder, most of whom are women. My name is Nyah. I work as a server at Aria Pizzeria and Bar. It's connected to the Reagan Building just down the street in Pennsylvania, so stop by, make sure you tip. I work for $3.50 an hour as a server, so I'm dependent on tips. Up until the government shutdown, I was working about 45 hours a week. After the shutdown, because our business was so hurt by that, all of the servers' hours were cut, so now I work a little bit less than 40 hours a week. So I can bring home anywhere from $20 a day to $70 a day in tips. Needless to say, being a single mom, I have a one-year-old son, bringing home $20 a day when someone else has been caring for your child is a serious problem. That basically means that I went to work for free because I'm handing over everything I made and saying, here, thank you for taking care of my child and I guess allowing me a vacation at work. So I am only one of many single mothers working in my job. As stated before, I don't think that we have any teenagers or anybody like that that's just working for spending money. Most of the women there do have children and do have families that they are supporting by themselves. So it's difficult when you're making decisions like, okay, hey girl, have you eaten today? No, I didn't eat, but I have to get home on the metro, so I can't. Can we split a sandwich? Having conversations like that, or just, hey girl, did you eat today? Nope, not planning to, can't afford it. Gotta buy diapers. I realized, I guess, the insanity of these sorts of conversations when I realized that they were happening every day. That we were talking on a daily basis about having to go and stand in line to get food stamps, having to go stand in line at different charities and things like that to get different supplies for our babies, which is something that I had never been exposed to before. And doing that was such a humbling experience and really threatened to crush who I was as a person, that I felt like, you know what, I need to start doing something about this. I need to fight back. This can't just be me. So the reason that I started working as a tipped worker actually was to complete my final semester to obtain my BA in psychology. And I did not expect that I would be, thank you. I did not expect that I would be working as hard as I do, spending so much time away from my son, and be absolutely no closer to the goal of going back to school to finish this one last semester than I am right now. So then the fear became, well, am I going to be able to go back to school? And wait a minute, if I can't afford to send myself back to school, how in the world will I get my son to be able to go to college 18 years from now? And then, if that feeling of having your back up against the wall, I don't know if anybody here has ever felt that, but that feeling just as a woman of your back is against the wall and the well-being of your child is threatened, you go into attack mode. You have to fight. Your fight or flight instinct comes out and you have to fight back. So it was in that time that I realized I needed to get involved with this campaign with Good Jobs Nation, who were really just such a helping hand to make me feel empowered that, that my voice mattered, that what was happening to me was not just, that it's not something that any woman or person should ever have to go through, working 40 hours a week and coming home with basically nothing, just enough to put out fires here and there. So, I jumped right in with 2 feet. Just to give you some background about myself, I know people talk about giving people a hand out of poverty. I was more like a backslide into poverty. I was a kid raised in the suburbs. I went to private school for most of my education. I'm a 3rd-generation college student. Both of my grandparents worked to put themselves through college while raising a family and put my grandfather through medical school. Both of my parents worked to put themselves through college while starting our family. And now here I am with the same challenge in front of me, and I'm finding it completely impossible. Even though I was raised on this American dream, if you work hard, you can do it. If you work hard enough, it's yours. I'm working hard, I got nothing. and I have a huge problem with that. If it were not for the fact that right now my son and I live with my parents, he and I would be homeless. And that stark reality really just woke me up, and I was like, you know what, this isn't right for me and it's not right for anybody else. So over the last year, I have been involved with Good Jobs Nation, with other government contract workers. We went on strikes 7 times in 7 months. A lot of risk was taken as far as our jobs were concerned. Up until last month when President Obama did sign the executive order to raise the minimum wage for low-wage workers like me in federal buildings. Up until then, our employers thought that we were totally crazy, and my job was definitely on the line. I went to work every day fearful, okay, this is going to be the day when you've gone on strike too many times or you've spoken up too much, and this is the day when you're going to get fired. So it was an amazing step. It was an amazing victory that President Obama signed the executive order for us. But there are so many other women and so many other people throughout the entire country working under the same conditions that I am who don't have any hope for that right now, who need the minimum wage to be raised because we're not surviving. We're not supposed to work to survive. You're supposed to work to live and to thrive. And as hard as we work, we really do deserve that. So 7 strikes, 7 months throughout the Reagan Building, Smithsonian Building, Union Station, the Pentagon. We've worked really hard to say that we cannot survive on what we're making right now. So after the president signed the executive order right now, what we're pressing for is for Congress to just follow his lead. What we asked President Obama to do was just to do the right thing, and he did. And now we're turning to Congress and asking them the same thing. Look at us. Look at our lives. Look at our paychecks. I challenge anyone here to please trade paychecks with me if you really think that, I'm being paid enough and what I'm being paid is fair. Let's trade paychecks for a month, and you budget out how you would afford things like formula, diapers, so on and so forth for me, because, hey, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm just doing it wrong. Maybe my math is off. Is that my get out of here? That's it. But yeah, we're pressing for Congress to do the right thing and for President Obama to continue to push for us and to continue to make it possible for us to actually live and to thrive and not just survive, for us to have the American dream too. Thank you, guys.